Fiona Masterson from the Learning Reservoir. In this video, I'm going to help you understand the FDA Quality System Regulations concept of process validation. Well, what is validation? There is a definition given for validation within 21 CFR 820, and that can be found in subpart A in the definition section. That's 21 CFR 820.3 in the Z part of subpart A, and it defines validation as the means of confirmation by examination and provision of objective evidence that particular requirements of a specific intended use can be consistently fulfilled. So in other words, what that means is that if you are filling product on a packaging line, that if you validate that packaging line process, that means that you can use that packaging line, and because it's validated, you know that it should be giving you consistent results. There's two types of validation called out in subpart A, and one is process validation, which is the focus of this video, and it defines process validation as the means establishing process validation means establishing by objective evidence that a process consistently produces a result or product meeting its predetermined specifications. So for the filling line, if you're filling whatever you're filling on that filling line, whatever the product specifications are for doing that filling, because you validate that process, it should always result in those predetermined specifications being met because it's formally validated. When you do a validation, it's a formal activity, and we'll talk about that in a moment. It also defines design validation in subpart A, and which is not the focus of this particular video, but design validation means establishing by objective evidence that design specifications conform with user needs and intended use. But still, it's the same concept. Basically, when you do a design validation, that means that your design has been checked to make sure that it is as per the design specifications and it will conform with the user needs and intended use. But for this video, we're focusing on process validation requirements that are contained within 21 CFR 20. So the first part of the regulation for process validation states that where the results of a process cannot be fully verified by subsequent inspection and test, the process shall be validated with a high degree of assurance and approved according to established procedures. And the validation activities and results, including the date and signature of the individual approving the validation, and where appropriate, the major equipment validated shall be documented. And this requirement is found in 21 CFR 820.75A. So let's break it down. It's stating here that for a process, if it cannot be verified in the future by subsequent inspection and test, you have to do a validation of that process. And all those validation activities that you do, and a lot of activities are done when you're doing a validation, have to be signed and dated by the individuals doing the validation and approved, and you have to document your activities. And all the work that you have to do per 21 CFR 820 should be documented and signed off by the individuals involved. So let's take a look at that wording there a little bit further. Where the results, so it's telling you that you have to do process validation where the results of a process cannot be fully verified by subsequent inspection and test, the process shall be validated. Well, what that means? Well, what it means is if a process cannot be verified through our testing or measurement, it has to undergo validation. And to explain that, I'd like to mention two processes. So for example, in a medical device company, you would do there'd be a lot of sterilization processes involved, because often medical devices are go into the human body, so they have to be sterilized. So you would sterilize your device, and also there's a lot of, depending on device, you might have a lot of adhesive bonding processes involved, and those are two processes that you would find in a medical device company, and they would have to be verified, because once they're done, once that process is done, there is no other step in the process where you can check or inspect to make sure the sterilization process has worked or the adhesive bonding process has worked. So for example, for the sterilization process, well, why do you do sterilization of a medical device? Well, you do that because you want to kill off all microorganisms on the device and to make sure that it's safe to use on a patient. And since it is not really possible to test the device after sterilization, the sterilization process must be validated to ensure that it is effective at killing all microorganisms. So you have to do, if you have a sterilization process, you will have to do validation of that sterilized process in order to be in compliance with 21 CFR 820.758, which states where the results of a process cannot be fully verified by subsequent inspection and test, the process shall be validated. Another process, as I mentioned, the adhesive bonding process. So this is another process very common. You might use it when you're manufacturing pacemakers or catheters, for example. However, the important part of that from a quality point of view will be the durability of the bond, the strength of the bond that's made during the adhesive process. But that cannot really be monitored or measured after the bonding process is complete, and therefore the adhesive bonding process must be validated to ensure that it consistently produces bonds that meet the required specifications of quality standards. So you have to do a validation of this process in order to be compliant with 21 CFR 20.75A. And that concludes this short video about process validation in the medical device industry. So important. It's one of your production and process controls to make sure your processes are in control. You have to validate them. And we saw that within the Quality System Regulation, a section within that covers process validation, which is section 820.75. And that concludes this video. If you like it, hit a like and please subscribe to our channel to get similar content.